I'm sure you've been wrestling with an idea or something that you know you should be doing or should have done, and you just can't figure out what's stopping me from doing it. Why do I have this reluctance, almost this fear of actually doing it? Well, it's all to do with how you're using your brain. Hi, I'm Liam Naden, and welcome to my podcast, Let Yourself Off the Hook. As someone who has studied success for decades, I have found the formula for achieving your dreams and goals, and it's all to do with how you use your brain. Each week on my show, I will provide you with the tools, resources, and expertise to utilize your brain to its ultimate potential and remove the barriers to your success. And as you will discover, true success in every area of your life only comes when you let yourself off the hook. People sometimes ask me, how come you've managed to get so much done in your life? I mean, I've had 18 different businesses at last count. I've written several books. I've hosted 3 podcasts, including this one. I've done a lot of travel. I've visited more than 30 countries and spent 18 months travelling around New Zealand in an RV motorhome, and spent 8 years travelling around Europe, visiting more than 15 countries in my own sailboat. And of course, I've also been through the experience of going from being a multimillionaire to becoming homeless. Now, it hasn't always been fun, and things haven't always gone to plan. But one thing I've managed to get a bit of a handle on, and which has enabled me to do so much, is to get around this whole thing of procrastination. How do we actually get ourselves to do the things that we know we should do, and that we know are going to create good results in our life? So in this episode, I want to share what I've learned about procrastination and ways to overcome it. And the big thing that I've learned is that procrastination is purely a function of how our brain is working, or more specifically, how we're not using our brain the right way. You know, it's been said that our biggest problem in life is not that we don't know what to do, it's just we don't know why we're not doing it. And I'm sure you've felt like that. I'm sure you've been wrestling with an idea or something that you know you should be doing or should have done, and you just can't figure out what's stopping me from doing it. Why do I have this reluctance, almost this fear of actually doing it? Well, it's all to do with how you're using your brain. And we've all had that feeling. But what actually happens? What's going on when you procrastinate? Well, we tend to do one of several things when we're feeling this reluctance to do something or procrastination. The first thing is we put it off and we say, I'll do that later. It's not really that important, and I definitely will do it. I will start that diet, or I will start that business, but I'll do it later. I've got other things to do right now, but I will do it. And the second thing we do is we distract ourselves with other things. So we do things that are easy to do, but they're unimportant. And we say to ourselves, look, I'm taking massive action. I must be getting closer towards my goal. Because we've all read, of course, that the key to reaching a goal is you have to take massive action. It doesn't seem to be so important about what you actually do, as long as you're taking massive action. So this is where perhaps you're a salesperson and you know that you should be picking up the phone. The only way you're going to make sales is by picking up the phone. But instead you find yourself in the office talking to the other salespeople about how good business is or how bad business is. Another thing you might do is create a list of all the things that you're going to do, that you know you need to do. And you might check your email. People often read books or go to seminars, and they keep themselves busy with learning more, getting more information, telling themselves they need more preparation before they actually do the thing they know they should do. Another thing we tend to do when we're procrastinating about what we should do is we set other goals. So for instance, we know that we should be focusing on growing our business or improving our financial situation, but instead we set a goal of getting fit. And so we do lots of exercise, really as a distraction away from doing the thing that we know we really should do that's going to make the biggest difference in our life. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with doing exercise to get fit, but if you find that it's really just a distraction from a bigger, more important thing in your life, then you have to question whether it's the right thing or whether you're just using it as part of procrastinating. And sometimes when we procrastinate, we justify where we are. And we say, well, life is actually good the way it is. Or, I don't really need that other thing. I don't need more than what I have now. After all, I'm better off than most people. Our marriage is okay. My financial situation is okay. My job's okay. It's not the greatest, but hey, I'm lucky to have it, and I probably wouldn't find a better one anywhere else anyway. So when we're busy doing all of these things, what are we really doing? We're fighting against our mind, aren't we? And we're trying to get rid of that nagging feeling of discomfort that's always there. It's that feeling that we're not really living to our full potential. It feels like we've got blockages in our life, we've got obstacles, we've got frustrations, and we're not really feeling the momentum, the passion, and really the emotional freedom that comes from doing the right things at the right time and seeing our life unfold in a great way. So of course we stay stuck. We stay stuck with these feelings and really with not making much progress in our life. And we might be really busy, and we might be saying to ourselves and to others, or others might be saying to us, oh wow, look at what he's doing, and that's great what you're doing. But we know deep down we're not making the progress we want to be. We're not as good as we can be. So what's the answer? How do you overcome procrastination? How do you do the things you know you should be doing? Well, if you've read about any of this before or heard anything about procrastination or the solutions to it, you've probably heard really it just comes down to three words. And those words are, just do it. Just do it. Now that's all very well, but it's a lot easier said than done, isn't it? And the reason it's easier said than done is because of what's going on in our brain, the way we're using the mechanics of our brain. Because here's the thing, if you just say to yourself, just do it, what are you really doing? You're trying to do something and achieve something through force, through effort and struggle. And as we all know, force and effort only gets you so far. It's not the real way to live your life. Because if you're trying to force yourself to take action, if you're trying to be determined and force yourself to be motivated, firstly, you're going to run out of energy fairly quickly because you're in a stressed state. You're putting this pressure on your body and on your mind that's using up a lot of energy, unnecessary energy. And the second thing is, and I'm sure you've found this as well, is that you tend to make mistakes. When you're just saying, I'm just going to do it, and you push forwards, again because of the way your brain is working, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do the wrong things. They're going to cause problems in your life and actually move you away from where you want to be going. And another thing we've been told is, well, you have to make this action, this thing you know you should be doing, you have to do it enough to make it into a habit. And if you do it often enough, it will become a habit, and then it won't be so hard to do. It won't be so stressful. But I don't know about you, but again, I've found that approach doesn't really work, because that thing that you don't really want to do, that you know you should, it never does become an enjoyable habit. It's always a struggle. And think about how many people set goals or New Year resolutions, for instance, and they start to work towards that, and they make a little bit of progress, but after a while they give up. They don't carry on the momentum. After a while they start procrastinating and stopping doing the things they know they should. And it's all because they've been trying to force themselves to do it. And success in life, doing what you really want, it's not about struggle. It's about enjoying the process as well as the destination. So instead of following those words, just do it, and trying to force yourself to take action, you need a different approach. And that comes from looking at the underlying cause of your reluctance, the real reason why you're not doing the things that you know you should be doing. And the great thing is when you do this, when you start to use your brain differently, you not only overcome your procrastination, but life becomes a lot more enjoyable. And you not only become much more productive, but you become happier as well. And isn't that the whole point? You'll also find that you do more of the right things and you naturally avoid doing the wrong things. And most of all, you'll get rid of that feeling of uneasiness, that there's always something there that you should be doing and you just can't figure out a way to do it. And you're frustrated with yourself that you're not doing it. You'll get rid of those feelings. Okay, well, let's start by looking at what's really going on in your brain that causes you to procrastinate. And on the other side, the part of your brain that causes you, or what actually happens when you really do take action, when you overcome procrastination. Now, you might recall there are 4 parts to your brain. And the 2 most important parts, the ones that guide your actions on a moment-by-moment basis, firstly are your creative brain. Now, this part of your brain, this is where your inspiration, your motivation, your imagination, your creativity, your insights, your awareness, your aha moments, this is where all of your greatest achievements come from. And it's the part of your brain that's designed to manage your life, to ensure that you become and are the best person that you can be, because that gives you the greatest chance for your survival, which is your biological purpose. And as you might gather, this is the part of your brain that you're using when you're not procrastinating, when you're in the flow, when actions are happening, when good things are happening in your life and you're taking the right actions and you're seeing great results. This is all due to you using your creative brain. But procrastination comes from using another part of your brain, which is the part I call your survival brain. And this includes your fight, flight, freeze response. And there's a clue in that word, freeze. Because what are you doing when you freeze? You're not doing anything. In other words, you're procrastinating. So literally, on a biological level, when you're procrastinating, when you're not doing something, when you're in the state of being frozen from action, it's because you're using this part of your brain that creates that behavior, your survival brain. Now, this part of your brain, your survival brain, your fight, flight, freeze part, this is activated whenever your brain perceives that you're faced with a threat or a danger to your survival. And the response to that situation is to create feelings within you of fear, stress, worry, anxiety, frustration, all of those negative emotions. So what's literally going on in your brain is your brain is saying you need to feel fear, stress, worry, and anxiety because there's something in your environment right now that is a threat, that is a danger to you. And in the right situation, when you are faced with a real threat to your survival, this is ideal. It's going to make you react by doing one of 3 things. Either run away, that's the flight part, or fight, which is reacting, and usually when it comes to a problem that means doing the wrong thing, or thirdly freezing, which means doing nothing, procrastinating. So the real reason you're in a state of procrastination, in other words, you're in this freeze state over what it is you know you should be doing, is that your brain is associating what you know you should do with danger. Now you might think, what do you mean? I don't see a danger. Whenever I feel fear, frustration, stress, anxiety, there's no danger in my life. No, but your brain thinks that there actually is. And what you don't realize is your brain is acting on subconscious fears, subconscious threats and dangers that it sees. You aren't even aware of them. So what is your brain afraid of? You're not afraid, but your brain is. What is it afraid of? Well, usually it's one of 2 things. Firstly, it's afraid that you're going to do the wrong thing, that something that you do is going to create some pain in your life, that you're going to make a mistake, that it's going to end up in an unpleasant situation. And when you really think about it, isn't that so true about how you feel about taking action? When you're afraid to take an action, you're worried about what the outcome might be. You're worried you might make a mistake. And it's that worry that stops you taking the action. And the other thing that might happen is your brain is saying, well, if you do that, it's going to be more painful for you than pleasurable. So if you think, for instance, say with a diet, you don't want to eat that good food and stop eating that bad food. You're reluctant to do that because your brain is saying the pain of not eating that food that you really like but which is bad for you is greater than the pleasure it might give you in the weight loss down the track. So maybe think about something you procrastinate over. Maybe it's something in your business. You struggle to do a particular thing in your business that you know you should do. Perhaps work on sales or contact customers. Could be in your personal life, in your relationship. There are things you want to say and do, but you're reluctant to do them. Isn't it true that the reason you're afraid to do it is because of that? Because you're afraid to do it. You're afraid of what result you think you might get. You're afraid of what you think might happen. So if you work on sales, for instance, if you pick up the phone and talk to that customer, you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid they won't buy from you or that they'll say something to you that will make you feel bad. Same in your relationship. You really want to be honest with the person and tell them how you feel, but you're afraid that they might react badly. Maybe you're afraid of trying something new because you're afraid that you'll be laughed at, or that you might think it was a waste of time. You might be afraid that you're going to look back and say, well, I tried that and it didn't work out very well and it was all a waste of time and I shouldn't have done it. You might be afraid that you're going to feel those things and think those things. And you know, the funny thing is, when we procrastinate, we actually experience the very thing we're afraid of experiencing. So, for instance, we don't do things because we think they might be a waste of time. What happens? We spend all our time wasting our time. Sometimes this can go on for years. We're afraid of not saying something or being honest in our relationship because it'll result in an unhappy relationship. And the resentment and the ill feeling and the miscommunication that comes from not saying how we feel in a relationship means we're not in a happy relationship. And the fear we have of maybe going and looking at how to set up a new business or do something different, that keeps us doing something we don't enjoy. You know, here's the funny thing about procrastination. It's such a simple thing, isn't it? And that's part of the frustration. We're going, if only I could just get myself to do that. It just seems so stupid, illogical that I'm not doing it, but I just can't do it. And that, of course, makes us feel worse, which pushes us more and more into using this survival brain, which makes us procrastinate even more. So here are a few solutions and things you can do to overcome procrastination. They're simple things, and they're not actually that difficult. The first thing is probably the most difficult of the ones I'm going to suggest, and that is to say to yourself, whatever it is you're procrastinating about, is to say, well, actually, I enjoy doing that. So, for instance, you know, I enjoy talking about my honest feelings in a relationship. Or I enjoy talking to customers and selling them products. I enjoy looking around and trying new ideas to make more money or improve my business. So you're not really telling yourself lies here, you're just admitting the truth, that you do actually enjoy those things. And the second thing is to create some momentum by breaking down whatever action it is that you're procrastinating over into very, very small pieces. You know, the problem when we look at something we know we should do is we see it as this enormous task, when all it really is a sequence of very, very small tasks. So, for instance, talking to a customer on the phone and selling them something, what is that? The first step is to look up their phone number. The second step is to pick up the phone. The next step, press the buttons or dial the number. The next step, wait until the phone is answered. The next step, wait till they say hello. The next step, you say hello. The next step, you say the next thing in the conversation. Do you see what I'm saying here? Everything is just a series of very, very small steps. And what we tend to do is we tend to overwhelm ourselves with the big picture, the big goal, if you like, or the big activity, when it's really just a whole lot of little activities. So just focus on those, one at a time, each little step. Don't think any further. just think about the very next thing and just do it. Just think about the very next thing you need to do. If you want to write a book, don't think about writing a chapter. Don't think about writing the whole book, but don't think about writing a chapter or a section. Say to yourself, I'm just going to open my computer. That's the first step. And I'm just going to spend 1 minute on doing this. That's really helpful for writing a book, but it's helpful for lots of other projects as well. Don't think you have to commit hours to it or wait till you've got a whole block of time that you can devote to it. Just say, I'm just going to open it up and do 1 minute. That's all I'm going to do. And of course, what often happens, 1 minute becomes 2 minutes. 2 minutes becomes 10, 20, 30 minutes. And you get a lot done. But it all came because you just said, I'm just going to do one little thing. I'm going to do 1 minute. So break it down into really, really tiny steps, micro steps if you like. And the third thing that's really powerful for overcoming procrastination, and this is something that, again, contradicts what most people say about achievement in your life, and that is, don't focus on your goal. Don't focus on the outcome. Focus on what we were just talking about. Focus on the very next step. And just knowing that the next step after that is going to show up. Don't even think about it. Because here's the thing. You don't actually know what outcome you want. What you think you want is the outcome because you think that's what's going to make you happy. But it may not be the right outcome for you. And I've covered this extensively in previous episodes about goal setting and why it's so unhelpful, really, to achieving in our life. And this is the reason. It's because it creates procrastination and it sends us in a direction that might not be right for us. So if you're in business or in sales and you know you need to make a certain amount of income, don't focus on that. Don't think about the number of calls you have to make or how many business deals you need to do or the numbers. Just take the very next step. Because of course, the number of calls you have to make starts with the first call. And the first call starts with picking up the phone. And that best-selling book doesn't start with having the best-selling book. It starts with opening your computer and devoting 1 minute to writing the next sentence. So just focus on the very next thing you need to do, what's right in front of you. Bring your attention to the present moment and what you're doing right now, and don't think about anything else. Because here's the thing, when you are thinking about the very next step, you're using your creative brain. Your creative brain works by showing you one step at a time where you need to go. It's only your survival brain that is analysing, planning, working out the steps, trying to figure out what to do and where you should go, and wasting all that time and energy, and all because it's based on fear. It needs to know the future. It needs to know where you're going. But it doesn't know. Only your creative brain knows, and it only shares it with you one step at a time. So stop thinking too much about everything. Replace your thinking with just doing. You know, so many times in life we see successful people and they say to you, well, I don't know how I have what I have and I don't know why I'm so happy. I just do stuff. They don't know as much as you. They don't know as much as most other people, it seems, but they just know how to take action. And they know that what they need to know will be provided for them at the right time by their creative brain if they allow it to do its job. Here's an example of this. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody where you just found that it went really well, but for some reason you weren't thinking too much about it? It just went really well and you enjoyed it. Contrast that with a conversation you were worried about and you were trying to figure out all of the things to say and it didn't go well. You know, athletes, peak performers, artists, people who really achieve a lot in their life, they often talk about what peak performance actually is, and they give it words such as being in the flow and in the zone. And what they would describe and what they say is that their best comes when they're not trying so hard. There's a different part of them that seems to take over and take control and leads them to the right actions, the right effort at the right time. and they use their energy in the most efficient way to get a great result. I used to be an organist, a keyboard player, and I used to find that when I was worried about what notes I was going to hit, I didn't play very well. But if I just let my fingers do the job, I played a lot better. So that's what you need to do to overcome procrastination, is to start trusting your creative brain that it will do the right job for you, and it will make sure that you take the right actions at the right time. But as I said, it's only going to show you one micro step at a time, and that's all you need to focus on. What's the next little thing I need to do? And just do it without thinking about where it might lead, whether it's going to be a mistake, if it's the right thing or not. And if you find yourself doing that, worried about what it might mean or whether you're going to make a mistake, just remember, if you're worried, if you're afraid, stressed, anxious, you're activating the part of your brain that is not going to show you the right thing to do, and it's going to try and stop you from doing anything because it's worried that anything you might do might be the wrong thing. So that's all you need to do to overcome procrastination. Don't think about it, don't hesitate, break everything down to the next step that you need to take or that you could take right now. Don't worry about whether it's going to be the right thing or the wrong thing. And what you're going to find is you'll build up this momentum in your life where not only are good things happening, often unexpected. Often you'll say to yourself, wow, how did that happen? How did I end up in this situation? I've said this to myself many times, or I used to. How did I end up owning 18 different businesses, sailing around Europe for 8 years on a boat? How did all this happen to me? Well, it only happened one way, and that was I took one little step at a time, didn't think about what the big picture or goal or try and analyze where I was going, but just realizing that there was a part of my brain, my creative brain, that was going to lead me in the right direction as long as I didn't worry about it. And the great thing is when you create this momentum, when you overcome this fear of doing things, this procrastination, your life takes on a new life. And you start to experience what life really should be, which is a fun adventure, not this grind of stress and struggle that we've turned it into for so many of us. And that's when you know that you've let yourself off the hook and you're being the best that you can be. This is Liam Naden signing off. Thanks for watching. But before you go, there's some action to take. Hit the subscribe and like buttons and leave your thoughts in a comment below. I'd love your feedback. And if you have friends who you think would benefit from this, please share it with them. Thanks again for your support, and stay tuned for more from me, Liam Naden. And remember, you can only reach your full potential when you let yourself off the hook.